How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome into the early line here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Dubs Anderson, joined alongside by my partner in crime, the one, the only, Make It Rain Ranieri, Joey Ranieri. And Joe, we got one sleep before Christmas. Can we do the bettors? Can we do the sports fans a little justice and give them that final swing for a couple of presents? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Dubs. It's like having the band back together here with you. When I was told that I'd be doing the show with you and Ben would have the day off, I said, buckle up, people. It's going to be the best show SportsGrid has ever had. I promise you. No pressure, though, Dubs. No pressure at all.
Buckle up, indeed. It's going to be a fast start, Joe, and that is what it is all about. We are hungry. We are hungry for winners. Just one more sleep until Big Santa Claus comes down that chimney. So let's turn it back to Monday Night Football, a little 7-7. The Green Bay Packers, they punched their ticket to the playoffs, and they close out the Saints. Very impressive, 34-0. And for the Big Easy, never showed up to play in this one, Joe.
Well, I mean, a great game considering it was a 14-point spread to begin with, Tubbs. So I'm not sure what folks were actually thinking we were going to get last night. What we got, though, was actually pretty historic because I believe it was the only shutout of the year in the NFL, Dubs. No other team had shut anybody out, and then they wait for week 16 here on a Monday night primetime game to give us a 34-0 wire-to-wire victory for the Packers. Great scheduling, NFL. Fantastic.
Yeah, well done. Hats off. What a way to close out week 16. Jordan Love, he was in his bag. Josh Jacobs continued to run all over him. And a couple of injury reports we're going to have to pay close attention to there with star wide receiver Christian Watson. So the Packers get it done for Monday Night Football. Let's take it out to the hardwood, 111-106. The Phillies were absolutely flying. The 76ers, I should say, there. Philadelphia. It was a big performance, but plenty of drama in this one, Joe. We saw Drummond. He was ejected. He came back into the game. And then big Jojo Embiid, well, he left for good.
I got to tell you, this was maybe the funniest sequence ever. Prior to the game, Dubs, I'm on a show trying to figure out whether or not I want to take Embiid's point prop over. And one of the guys on the show reminds me, like, you don't even know if he's going to be able to be in the game past the first quarter. He might get injured. He might stub his toe. And no sooner, Dubs, I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let me pass. Then he gets tossed immediately in the game, and I'm crying. I'm going, anybody holding an Embiid ticket right now in the prop betting market must be going out of their mind. A lot of drama in that game, but Maxey to the rescue, because it wasn't for him. They might have gotten blown out in that game. He took it on his shoulders, and poor Wemby and company just didn't have enough to overcome the Sixers.
I'll tell you what, Wemby played some fantastic basketball, but just couldn't do enough there with his will. 26 points. He had 6 threes, so was getting hot from beyond the arc. Let's keep the theme here, talking about the big fellas, the Joker. Nothing laughing, nothing funny about it. The Denver Nuggets with a big win over the Phoenix Suns, 117-90. What happened here for the Suns? They never showed up ready to play, Joe.
No, more rest. Denver coming in off a second night of a back-to-back here. Not to mention these two teams have to play on Christmas in another 24 hours or so. And, Phoenix had everything going for them. No Devin Booker. No Grayson Allen, but you still had Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant on the court, and you got absolutely smoked by the Denver Nuggets with no rest. So I don't know what to make of this Phoenix Suns team. I really don't.
Yeah, that was a big showing there from Nikola Jokic and for the Suns. Back to the drawing board. Let's take it out to the gridiron, little college football bowl season. Let's go bowling. How did they come up with some of these names? We had the Idaho Potato Bowl. It was Northern Illinois double OT thriller, getting it done over Fresno State, Jar.
Oh, that was brutal. Bad beat for those that had the under in the game, too, by the way. That was a 13-13 game. With about, I believe, under 2 minutes to go. Northern Illinois had the ball inside the 20-yard line, could have kicked a field goal, had a fourth and short, and they went for it and didn't get it. Turned the ball back over there to Fresno State, couldn't score, went to not one but 2 overtimes, and eventually the defense stood up, and not before you got a whole lot more points in overtime, Dubs. So the over hits. But somehow Northern Illinois, a 2.5-point favorite, gets the cover in double overtime.
Owen McCowney was big for the Roadrunners, 254 passing yards with that one single touchdown. We also had UTSA beating up Coastal Carolina in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. So that was another big one for the Monday night. And the college football, the party continues, Joe. We're now getting set for the second round of the college football playoffs. I know you're a big fan of this new look format, but big news coming across for Georgia star quarterback Carson Beck, set to miss the remainder of the playoffs, and they're getting set to show off with a little New Year's Day action going against Notre Dame. So what does this mean for Georgia going forward?
Well, it shouldn't mean anything given the fact that they've known he was going to have to go under the knife and he was going to be lost for good there. Listen, didn't matter in Texas, right? The injury happened in that second Texas game. And what happens? Well, they brought in the backup who had looked pretty competent to me here. And the reality is Beck became a liability halfway through that season with all those turnovers. And a lot of times you didn't know who he was throwing it to. So I think if they cut that back out now, I think they'll be okay here with the backup. He was good enough to hold on and beat Texas. I think he'll be good enough to be able to win at least one playoff game here. We'll see how it goes from there.
Carson Beck is out. Gunnar Stockton will get those starting reps. Keeping it in line with injury updates, news and notes coming across there in the NFL. The Texans claim wide receiver Deontay Johnson from the Ravens, and now they're getting set to go against the Ravens on Wednesday afternoon. So happy returns, Joe.
Yeah, good deal. But still, I don't know how you're going to overcome Tank Dell. Stephon Diggs out for this season. They've lost a lot of the weapons they thought they were going to have here. And it feels like the Texans are just holding on at this point, Dubs. And I can tell you this, all of the money when this line opened up has come towards the Ravens for this game on Christmas between the Texans and the Ravens. There is nobody backing the Houston Texans, who have a lot of injuries and a lot of question marks on the offensive side of the ball, namely that offensive line, Dub. So it could be it's a short week, and it could be a very long Christmas here for them against the Ravens.
Yeah, that's a massive loss for Tank Dell and the Texans. Sad stuff in trying to close out the regular season. And with that, a little Monday night hoops, a little college basketball. Tennessee remains undefeated. And Joe, at this time of year, I'm really getting jacked up for a little college basketball. This was an absolute doozy, 82-64 over Middle Tennessee, and they need that second half to come back and get the win.
That was way too close for comfort there. Those that were backing Tennessee here, it was a big number, but they were losing at the break, 40-34. Middle Tennessee was hitting shots. Middle Tennessee was actually still winning with about halfway through the second half until Tennessee decided to put their foot down and said enough of this, and eventually blew them out. But boy, that was too close for comfort for Tennessee backers.
Chaz Lanier puts up a 23-piece, and that was enough to get the result. There it is, 7-7, one night, one more sleep before we hit a little Christmas day. So happy holidays. It's going to be a fast start to your Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday morning. Joe, I've got to go and do the shopping a little later today. What's the one go-to food item that is a must-play on the lunch table tomorrow? What are we looking for?
Oh, that's easy. It's bourbon. Without a doubt.
Yeah. I just don't miss. We're taking a quick time out. We'll reach back on the other side. Early line. Getting out. You're not riding with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Where have you gone? Don't tell me it's your Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500. There's no rush.
They just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Early Line here on the SportsGrid Network. Happy Tuesday tip-off. I'm Dubs Anderson. That is Joe Ranieri. And we turn it back to last night, Monday Night Football, to round out Week 16 in the National Football League. One team came ready to play. Another team, I don't even know if they showed up to Lambeau on a chilly Monday evening. The Packers get it done 34-0. They blanked the Saints. That's the first shutout that we've seen of the year. Jordan Love, he was copping a couple of knocks. He goes 16 for 28, 182 passing yards, but it was a clinical display from the Packers, Joe. And I ask you, is this a team that's starting to look better and better the further we get into this thing.
Well, they are, Dubs. I mean, and it should not come as a surprise that really the only 2 losses that they've had over the last, 10 weeks, 12 weeks here has been to the Detroit Lions. Outside of that, Dubs, they have pretty much handled their business. They had to navigate through, an injury to Jordan Love early in the season here where they had to kind of figure some things out. Once he shook off the rust, though, when they came back, it's been smooth sailing. I mean, and I don't know why this surprises people. I had the Packers actually as a dark horse, not only to win the North, but to also win the NFC, Dubs. And we got them at 14 or 15 to 1 early on in the season because I said, listen, if something happens to Goff or and look at what's happened to Detroit's that side of the defense. I don't think anybody took Minnesota seriously, and I still don't. Who's left? Well, Green Bay. I mean, there's nobody in the NFC West. The Green Bay Packers have the experience. They were this close a year ago, Dubs, from making a pretty good run there at the Super Bowl. So this should not surprise anybody. Defense is better than it was a year ago, and Jordan Love, believe it or not, is better than he was a year ago. And how about this running game that they've got right now? They are built to win games in January, Dubs, which makes them very dangerous, especially given the state of the Detroit Lions right now.
What's been the turnaround for you, Joe? Has it been that run game? There's a couple of big names in the NFL, new faces in new places, but Josh Jacobs, he has put together a fantastic season since coming across from the Raiders. He puts another one into the house there last night, 13 carries for 69 rushing yards, and I feel like he has the hottest hand in terms of anytime touchdown scorers. It was another one. Has that been the key to sort of unlocking this complementary football for the Packers that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jacobs and the ability, they had to get a new defensive coordinator. Jeff Hafley left the head coaching job at Boston College to take a defensive coordinator position in the NFL. And that doesn't happen. I usually don't get guys leaving, the king of the hill there in college, being a head coach of a program, especially like Boston College. But he wanted the challenge, and he has delivered for them. They won that game in shutout fashion last night, Dubs. 4 of their defensive starters were not available, including Quay Walker, their leading tackler, was not available in that game last night. They had a bunch of guys making their first starts in the secondary, and when you're playing let's face it, a Division II school like the Saints, because that's basically what it felt like I was watching last night with Spencer Rattler. That was a good win. But now they got to head to face Minnesota in Week 17. That's going to be all about postseason seeding. Who gets, don't forget, Minnesota won that first matchup, Dubs, 31-29 at Lambeau, but that was back in Week 4. That was the first game Jordan Love actually returned from the MCL strain. And they were getting the snot beat out of them in the first half, if you recall. The second half was a totally different ball game. I think right now the Packers are not a team or a train I want to get in front of. I don't think Minnesota sweeps them. The Packers, to me, are the most dangerous team in the NFC if you're looking to back somebody outside of the favorite Philadelphia Eagles or the Detroit Lions.
And they're still sitting there at plus 650. Jordan Love, when he's on turn, that offense, it looks fantastic. But last night, in terms of being a measuring stick, a couple of holes could be poked through that with the Saints. I mean, where do we go here for New Orleans, Joe? This was another lackluster display. And if we turn it right back to the start of the regular season, this was a team that put up north of 90 points. Derek Carr, he was looking fantastic. AK, he was turning back the clock. There was a lot of injuries last night, but, Spencer Rattler, he was looking like Dubsy out there on a Sunday afternoon. That was not up to scratch for a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Maybe I sound a little bitter, a little sour, but that's because I absolutely am, Joe. I went after him with these passing completions, got it at 16.5, and I don't know what I was thinking. Betting on a bad quarterback for Monday Night Football, silly stuff.
In Lambeau, I mean, just terrible. I mean, he finished tonight with 153 passing yards, an interception, a lost fumble, 15 of 30. And you're right, Dubs. It's just inexcusable. That's not NFL quality play at all. And just look at this. This is the worst 15-game start to a season for the Saints. You got to go all the way back to 2005 in an era in which they were awful. And I mean big time awful, where they were 3-12, I think, to start the season. They are just not a good football team at all. They got to really just flush it and start from scratch. You're going to have to get new leadership in there, a new head coach. Is Derek Carr the future of this team? They've got a lot of questions to answer here. The good thing for them is that they can really wipe the slate clean and really go to the draft and try to make some moves here, maybe trade some of those expensive assets they have on the team, like a Kamara or somebody along those lines. But none of those guys are playing, and you saw what happens when your stars don't show up on a Monday night game. You end up getting shut out 34-0 at Lambeau.
Yeah, other news and notes coming across here early for the Tuesday afternoon. Christian Watson, it sounds like all reports are trending in the right direction. We saw the star wide receiver leave that game a little early, but it looked like he could possibly get back into it late, but really no need to force the hand there for Monday Night Football. We're going to hit a quick timeout. On the other side, the live action, the sports talk continues here on the early line. Happy Tuesday, Wigan Stead. Holiday betting coming up tomorrow. Stick with it.
The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500. There's not
that just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
I mean, this is week 16, and you're throwing this guy in the fire. I know the Giants suck, Scotty, but you got that backdrop. Just give it to Bijan 50 times if Penix isn't looking too well.
And I also think Penn State has an easy track. And I think, to be honest with you, Indiana, people are all going to say they should have never been there. And listen, I just wanted to say one last time before that happens that you can all kiss my ass.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And you're not riding with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Where have you gone? Don't tell me it's your Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
On, Donner and Blitzen. Now, Rudolph, now.
Merry Christmas to all!
Welcome back into the early line here on the SportsGrid Network. We're talking all things Monday Night Football. It was the Green Bay Packers putting on an absolute clinic over the Saints, but we now turn it to a little futures outlook, Joe. How high is the ceiling for the Packers? And we'll start with the NFC. It sounds like you are bullish on their chances to make a bit of a run through the playoffs. They currently sit at 11-4, NFC title plus 650 odds, and then to go all the way and take out the big dance, the Lombardi at 13-1. So let's start with the top of the board. How far can they go? Could they surpass the Lions, the Eagles, if they can get them in the playoff dance?
Yeah, well, pretty good. I mean, I still think the plus 650 has pretty good value here, and why not at plus 1300 for the Super Bowl? I think if you are looking for somebody outside of the chalk, meaning somebody outside of the Eagles, even though what a unbelievable meltdown that was against the Commanders this weekend. Or Detroit, I got to tell you, I can tell you this. I don't know if it's a prop, Dubs, but the idea that whoever's going to be representing the NFC is probably coming from the NFC North. I mean, look at the records of the three top teams in that division. They're the three best teams in the NFC right now outside of Philadelphia. You got the Packers. You have, who had the Minnesota Vikings at 13 wins? Detroit right there, Green Bay. You know, these three teams know each other. It's going to come down to which one of those three can stay healthy enough to make a run. And I got news for you. I think this Packers-Minnesota game coming up this week is going to be a pretty good indication, a pretty good litmus test out of which one of those two teams got a real shot at making a run at this, especially since the Packers lost at home already this year to Minnesota. Now they have to go to their place to take them on this week. I think that's a huge game, and I think the Packers are not a team, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I actually do trust Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, and that defense to be able to go to Minnesota and win that game. But the winner's coming from the NFC North. I can't believe I'm saying that. I don't even think it's close here, Dubs. I don't know if you give Philadelphia a crack, but I think the winner is coming from the North. One of those three teams is representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
And if the playoffs started today, Joe, it looks like the Rams would be licking their chops at either playing the Vikings or the Green Bay Packers. In terms of starting quarterbacks, Jordan Love's got to be up there. Could we say top five? Is that being a little too optimistic from what we've seen of the young gunslinger there for the Cheeseheads?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and how can you not? We saw what the version of the Packers looked like without him. And they did that, listen, you can only go so far with a backup quarterback here. But the reality is we saw this guy figure it out a year ago, Dubs, right down the stretch. There, you saw it click with him. The Jordan Love that we got the first couple of years, backing up Aaron Rodgers and coming in the game, something happened last year, that 5 or 6 game stretch at the end of the season where they rolled into the playoffs. And now we're seeing it again this year. Some guys just get it, and I think, Dubs, that goes a long way as to why you don't let guys sit. That used to always be the way it was. Let guys sit a year or two, get their feet wet instead of throwing them to the wolves and expecting great things. I think the Packers did it right, and now they're going to have another franchise quarterback for the next decade plus, and it could very well be representing them in the Super Bowl coming up this February.
11 wins and counting. Could they make it 12 going against the Vikings here for Week 17 in the National Football League? Still sitting there at plus 1,300. Joe, I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you. If they've got 11 wins thus far, how many would they have if Aaron Rodgers was still playing quarterback?
Yeah, well, listen, I think not 11, I'll tell you that. Not with Aaron Rodgers, the current state of Aaron Rodgers. Listen, they did it right, man. It's a franchise that will have gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now so far, the early returns on Jordan Love are tremendous. We ripped the organization for drafting him with that top pick there in when they still had Aaron Rodgers, and you know what? Nobody's laughing at him now, Dubs, because the guy is a legit, to your point, top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now, and only getting better.
Yeah, I think we all know who we're laughing at, and it's not the quarterback over there with the Green Bay Packers anymore. So the Packers absolutely like to make run in towards the playoffs there. We're going to sneak in a quick timeout. The action continues on the other side. You're watching the Blue Line. Stick with us.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a challenge. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Early Line. Time for a little NFL news and notes as we get set for Week 17 in the National Football League. And let's start with the Texans, Joe. We saw for Week 16, Tank Dell, very serious injury sustained their season ender. So for D'Amico Ryans and the crew, they're looking to build forward, keep their playoff, aspirations moving in the right direction. Welcome in Deontay Johnson, who showed a bit of promise earlier this season with the Panthers, went across to the Ravens, where it really didn't work out in favor, but certainly bolsters their wide receiving room stock.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. This is going to be an interesting move, and it's a desperation move, I think, for the Houston Texans here, Dove, simply because they lost Tank Dell. They had already lost Stephon Diggs. They were so ridiculously successful early in the season that they won enough games in that terrible division that they were going to make the playoffs. They've known it for weeks. The problem is they seem to be getting worse and more hurt. Now you claim a guy off of waivers that was released from a Super Bowl contender who's got some issues at the wide receiver position themselves, and yet they wouldn't even let him take the field. Apparently, he refused to take the field after they traded for him, by the way, from Carolina. Apparently, he just refused to take the field in Week 13, and it was a mess of a situation. Talk about not being able to fit into the locker room, and now you're going to take him and send him into Houston locker room where he's a wild card, unfortunately. You just don't know what you're going to get from him. He's either going to help them and he's going to keep his mouth shut and the guys in the locker room can control him, or it's just going to be an unmitigated disaster, at which point the Texans should be strictly fade from here on out.
Yeah, a bit of a risk the Texans just have to take, and we'll get to see them out on the field Wednesday afternoon. They will be playing host to the Baltimore Ravens, that high-flying offense led by Lamborghini Lamar Jackson. The Pittsburgh Steelers could be getting set to welcome the return for George Pickens, star wide receiver, and it looks like they really have missed Pickens, getting it vertical, getting them downfield. They've dropped their last two, and they're going against the reigning champs, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, well, this should be an interesting one as well. But they need him. They have absolutely no vertical threat. Defenses know it, and what they have done is made Russell Wilson very one-dimensional, Dubs. And when you do that, yeah, that's not exactly the best thing to do if you are the Steelers. You need Pickens. You need secondaries to worry about Pickens. You've got to have that vertical threat. You've got to have that one guy on the field that the secondary and the defenses are worried about, and they just don't have it. And Russ ain't it by himself. He needs can't do it with just a running back and a tight end. You need a guy that can go vertical, and it would be huge for them to be able to get him back. But quite honestly, at this point, make sure he's ready, because I'd much rather have him in January, Dubs, available to me than try to hurry up him back from a hamstring issue here to play a game against the Chiefs, who all but locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC to begin with.
Yeah, Pickens missed the last 3 games. Certainly no reward for getting back a little early there. And Joe, it's been a minute since the two of us have caught up. You threw out a little Danger Russell Wilson. General thoughts of what you've seen there for the star quarterback for Pittsburgh? I mean, he has looked a little better. It looks like he's turned back the old clock there going against Father Time, but the passing game has been pretty strong.
Listen, I give credit to guys that I was wrong about. Arthur Smith, when he, coming from Atlanta, and what a disaster that was. And that organization with all those weapons, although it appears that maybe Arthur Smith wasn't the problem in Atlanta. But he comes in here and remakes this Steelers run first, run offense. Well, he gets Russ in there and resurrects his career, and Russ has been great. But again, Russ is at the point in his career where he can't carry them. He needs to have that one outside threat there in Pickens. When they have all of those guys on the field, I think we've seen what Russ can do throwing the ball down the field, and has a pretty good offensive line. So I'm impressed. I thought Russ was cooked. I thought Arthur Smith was cooked. And yet here in Pittsburgh, they have both resurrected their careers. So kudos to them.
Yeah, well done. I'll put the hand up there as well. I still think he's going to be prone to a big lapse at a critical point, and I think it's going to be a playoff game. But time will tell. Let's turn it to a little Monday Night Football. Things go from bad to worse for San Francisco and head coach there, Kyle Shanahan. The big news coming across. Star left tackle Trent Williams now set to miss the remainder of this season, just a day after officially being eliminated from the playoff race.
Yeah, no, terrible. How they lost to Miami was actually pretty embarrassing as well. But the season's over, and we know this. So why in the world would you try to get him back here? He was obviously the anchor to that offensive line. They have no running backs. Everybody is hurt. It's been just one of those. It's been one of those seasons, Dub, unfortunately, where as much talent as they have had, the injury bug caught them this year, and that's it. There's just certain things you can't overcome, and the entire season they lost a lot of games they shouldn't have lost. They gave up a lot of leads in the fourth quarter. Things that we're not used to seeing the 49ers do, they did this year, and then the injuries just piled on top of it. So I wouldn't return either. I would just chalk it up. It's a lost season. You move on and get everyone healthy for next year.
And that's what it's all about, Joe Ranieri. It's all about accountability. Sometimes you got to put the hand up where you're wrong and say, hey, this is how it all played out. We take that forward step and move on to the next one. Is that what we're seeing over in Arizona? Jonathan Gannon calls the Cardinals' collapse from what we saw in week 16 an indictment on myself. Is Jonathan Gannon all to blame for this dumpster fire that we're seeing with the Cardinals?
Just awful. I mean, listen, of course he's going to be partly to blame. That's exactly what he should say as the head coach there. But Kyler Murray is a wreck. I'm sorry. I mean, there is no excuse to go up against the last place defense, the worst defense in the NFL, in what the Carolina Panthers have. And Kyler Murray with an opportunity to win this game, not only in the fourth quarter, but in overtime, and gains, 8 yards? I mean, come on. It just absolutely disgusting. They weren't ready to play early. By the time they finally kicked it in, they got back into that game, but they could never take the lead. And Kyler Murray, when you needed him the most, guess what? Was not there. Kyler Murray to me is not a guy I would build a franchise around. I don't know how much more we have to see him falter before we realize he ain't it in Arizona. I think Gannon did the right thing by falling on the sword, but the reality is that's all on you, Kyler Murray. This entire losing streak, by the way, is on the fact that Kyler Murray can't get out of his own way.
Relax, my guy. I mean, Call of Duty was just released a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's been busy with some real stuff going on, not playing good football on Sundays.
Good point.
Joe, how do you move forward if you're the Cardinals? They'll take on the Rams for week 17, but are you sticking with the quarterback or are you sticking with Gannon to try and turn this thing around going into the future?
Listen, you're paying him, you're playing him as long as he is healthy here. But I think that organization has to take it. You wrote him the check, but you got to figure out a way to get to him, because you're paying this guy that kind of money to be a difference maker, and he has not been a difference maker at all down the stretch when they needed him the most. This was a team, Dubs, 4 weeks ago that was right up at the top with a possibility of winning outright the NFC West. Now look at them. They're out of the playoffs.
Yeah, not good there at all. The latest from the Philadelphia Eagles as they get set to take on the Cowboys, also eliminated from the playoff race, is Jalen Hurts battling to get out there for week 17, but is the risk really worth the reward? Well, we'll discuss that on the other side. Plenty going on right here on the early line. You're watching with us right here on the SportsGrid Network. Stick with it.
On, Donner and Blitzen. Now, Rudolph, now.
Merry Christmas to all!
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
It just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the early line. The action continues here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Dubs Anderson alongside Joe Ranieri. And Joe, we got to talk a little fly, Eagles fly. I'm usually here on a Wednesday chopping it up with DRS. I mean, he's love and fanfare towards his Eagles. Unbelievable, Ranieri. But Jalen Hurts still in the concussion protocol. I really don't see why you try and force him to be out there for Week 17 against the Dallas Cowboys. But I need to get your thoughts. What we saw last weekend against the Commanders, was that Jaden Daniels taking over that game, or is that a sign of the Eagles being a little vulnerable at the business time of a very big spot?
It just a comedy of errors with the Eagles in that game. You cannot turn a team over 5 times and lose the game, Dubs. You can't get 5 turnovers in a game. Your defense not only intercepted, got a couple of fumbles there. You can't turn the ball over 5 times and not win the game here. And listen, as Jalen Hurts, it was rough that he had to go out there, but Kenny Pickett did more than enough to help that team win that game, including the game-winning touchdown pass that was dropped by Devonta Smith at the 5-yard line with nobody around to hit him right in the hands. That game is over if he runs that and scores that in there at that point. So Pickett is not the reason they lost it, the backup quarterback. It would help if they had Jalen Hurts back, but to your point, he's got to pass, that 5, I believe there's 5 phases in order for him to get out of the concussion protocol. That probably won't happen until later in the week. Sirianni already saying that he'll have no problem if he clears the protocol, even though he didn't practice all week. He's got no problem putting Jalen Hurts in there to start. He'll be more than ready to play against the Cowboys. So I'm not worried either way because the Cowboys at this point, who are playing some decent football, they haven't thrown the towel in, and they'd love nothing more than to stick it to the Philadelphia Eagles. But the reality is, I don't know that Cooper Rush is going to do it. That defense, to me, of Philadelphia is legit. It wasn't their fault they lost that game, unfortunately, against the Washington Commanders. The offense got to get it together here in big moments. I think he'll be ready, though. All indications are he'll clear it by Thursday or Friday. No practice, but he'll be ready to go here, which this game was flexed from the 4 o'clock to the 1 o'clock. So we would get Green Bay, Minnesota at the 4 o'clock time slot on Sunday.
The Eagles trying to turn things around to get back to those winning ways in Week 17. A team over in Sin City, Joe Ranieri, they're not looking to turn things around. They're looking to play that hot hand at the table, and I cannot figure this one out. We're lucky enough to have a little bite here from head coach Antonio Pierce on the latest win for the Raiders. Not going up the draft ladder. They're going down the wrong direction in search of that starting quarterback. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, man, look, we work 80 hours a day. All right, 80 hours a week. Staff, players come here, they're 40-plus hours to work. We don't do this to lose. We don't do this for anybody's fantasy football team. We don't do this for anybody's drafts, projections. None of that matters to us. Only thing that matters is winning, and that's all we want to do.
Hey, you need more of them. You need more of them. 3rd win of the season there for the Raiders over the Jags over the weekend. What's the big takeaway from this one, Joe? Because they were sitting there with top spot. It's real simple. Just don't win, and you're in pole position to get the best quarterback coming out of this year's class. Suddenly, with that latest victory, they now drop to 6 on the draft ladder. Are we winning? Are we tanking? What do you take away from those words?
I mean, that's a huge swing, that win there, with a couple of weeks left to go, because they had pretty much would have locked up. And they had, I believe, before the game, a 35% chance at the number 1 pick. But now that they won the game, they have a 1% chance to get that number 1 pick. And that is a big difference, especially for the game-changing quarterbacks that are available here in this draft, especially Shedeur Sanders. So, but the Giants are sitting in the driver's seat, and it goes to show you, and we do this every year, right? Players don't quit. They don't tank. Organizations may want to tank, but players won't. They don't go out there putting it all on the line to lose games. He's right, but my goodness, right place, right time, because that Jacksonville team is just awful on so many levels.
Yeah, and I cannot believe I was buying in early on the Jags. A couple of big futures things, Joe, just didn't work out for Trevor Lawrence and the lads over there in Jacksonville. I don't know. I mean, you've got a chance to turn around your organization, get one of the hottest prospects, and this is the result. But you highlight the point, Joe. These are still high-octane athletes. There's a lot of juice in the room, but they're not going out there with the game plan of not trying to win every single quarter of every single matchup. If ownership and management want to step in, we're going to see it earlier in the week. They're going to be saying, hey, starting quarterback, starting wide receiver, he's out for the rest of the year. Now let's see how you do on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. No, they are. I mean, listen, the Giants right now are in the driver's seat with 2 wins, right? 2-13. And let's be honest here. They're going to be rolling out either Drew Lock. Well, they'll be rolling out Drew Lock because they're paying him here. But this is a team that is just absolutely awful. They got to play the Colts and the Eagles. And even as currently constructed, I don't see them beating the Colts or the Eagles. Neither of those 2 teams are going to roll over for the Giants. New England was the other big benefactor here because of their loss to Buffalo. Well, now they're right behind the Giants. And if the Giants are somehow stupid enough to win one of those last 2 games, well, the Patriots could very well take over that spot here. They got the Chargers and another one with the Bills, which might mean absolutely nothing in Week 18. And they played them pretty hard in Orchard Park, didn't they, this past week?
Yeah, they absolutely do. They showed up with the boots absolutely laced. Yep. We've got 6 teams, Joe, 3 wins or less. Who's the biggest standout for you going into Week 17 saying, head scratcher, how are they so bad from what you projected early in the year?
Well, the Giants are just awful, but Tennessee looks to me like they quit. Just defensively, that was embarrassing what they did against Indy.
They quit the mayonnaise, and that was it for my guy, Will Levis. Wild team. After a quick break, we'll meet back here on the other side. More on the early line.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a challenge. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this. I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text. Put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe. Like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Welcome back into the early line. Dubs Anderson, Joe Ranieri getting you up to speed with the Tuesday tip-off, the afternoon slate. Plenty of action, plenty of storylines. And we're getting set for 2 games in the NFL on Christmas Day. What more could we ask for, Joe? Well, I asked for a little more, and we've absolutely got it. Beyonce performing at the halftime break. The Ravens taking on the Texans over at NRG Stadium. And for me, this is going to be absolutely must-see, but also for star quarterback Lamar Jackson. He's telling us, Joe, that he doesn't care what's going on in this game. He's apologized to his head coach. He is going to be out there watching Beyonce putting on a live show for the ages. Big takeaways, big thoughts on this one. Would you be doing the same, Joe?
Is Beyonce even still performing? Like, what are you talking about, Lamar? Like, seriously? Like, what is this? Is this like 10 years ago? Is it like 2000? What are we doing here? Like, you haven't seen the fact at this point that you've never seen Beyonce in concert is a little head scratching. Is it not, Dubs? Like, where you been, dude? I don't understand. I listen, do what you want there, Lamar. But if you're out there at the halftime show watching it instead of inside the locker room and then you lose the game, good luck explaining that one, Dubs. Good luck, Lamar. Let's see how that works out for you.
JR, I know you're excited. I'm excited. Let's take a listen. You can hear from Lamar Jackson. Energy is absolutely palpable looking towards NRG Stadium here for Wednesday afternoon. Lamar, what do we got?
My favorite Beyonce, to the left.
Oh, God.
Okay. A little disappointing that she's going to be performing at a halftime show that you can't watch.
Nah, because I'm going to go out there and watch. Yeah. Go out there and watch, man. My first time seeing Beyonce perform, and it's at our game. That's dope. I'm going to go out and watch. Sorry, Hawa. Sorry, fellas.
Depends how big your lead is. If you guys have one.
Nah, man, I'm not even thinking about the lead. I was just thinking about just seeing Beyonce for the first time.
Think about the lead. There's a bit of confidence there, Joe. Who knows that they're going to be leading at the halftime break? The Texans are live in this one. Surely this is not a thing. Harbaugh's going to put the foot down and say, mate, this is a bad look. It's a bad look for your brand. It's a bad look for us as a team. You're going to be in the locker room with the boys.
Listen, if you can do whatever you want as long as you win the game. If you don't win the game, all right, and in the second half you don't deliver, guess what, Dubs? If there is a picture of him outside the locker room watching a halftime show and then comes out and loses the game, yeah, it's that's just a whole lot of aggravation you don't need to bring on yourself. Maybe if you can sneak it, or maybe get like a camera or something in there, you want to watch it in the locker room, be my guest, but do not show your face out there watching a lip-syncing halftime show, Dubs, and we all know it. Like, who are you kidding here, people? Not even a real concert.
You just talk what I was thinking straight out from between the ears. I mean, you've got, 80,000 people in some big stadium. There's no atmosphere. There's no vibes. Beyonce not even going to be singing, because we see all the dance moves that go into it. It's not so much about the music or the song. So get out of here. It's an absolute pass from me. Lamar Jackson, focus on getting that W for Christmas afternoon there. I'm certainly looking for a big performance. So Beyonce, Lamar Jackson, what a Wednesday we have on tap. And what a Tuesday night it was, Joe, out there on the hard court. We turn it to the association, the big fella, the Joker. We teased it off the top of the show there. 117-90 over the Suns. Clinical display there. He was in his bag, and 32 points, 7 assists. It wasn't enough for the Suns to even keep close with the big fella.
No, and by the way, they didn't have Jamal Murray because of the left ankle issue. They were playing the second of a back-to-back, and a tough one too at that the night prior. And here's Phoenix coming in rested, and they absolutely, again, no Devin Booker. Grayson Allen was a scratch there as well. But outside of Durant and Bradley Beal, both those guys had 23 points. They got nothing from anybody else. Michael Porter Jr., Russell Westbrook went 13 of 17 from the field for Denver. And then that was all she wrote. There was no scoring for Phoenix. 117-90. That's now what? Their third straight loss for Phoenix. And they'll be back in Phoenix tomorrow playing the Denver Nuggets. And Hopefully they'll get either Grayson Allen or Booker back because they don't have enough scoring. And it's completely evident there's some issues with this Phoenix team.
Monster performance there Monday night from the Nuggets. The Cavs, they're remaining very efficient in what we saw last night. And the Lakers go down in LA to who? Pistons? What is going on? Now it's coming up on the other side.